Hello everyone, welcome to EduHub tutorial. In this tutorial, I shall walk you through how to solve the different tasks in pre-release material for May-June 2022. Before I continue, it's important you get yourself subscribed to this channel and click on the notification bell in order to be alerted whenever more resourceful videos like this are uploaded. Thank you as you do so. Okay, so instructions. You should use this material in preparation for the examination. You should attempt the practical programming task using your chosen high-level procedural programming language. However, we are going to be using Pseudo Code, programming statements, and Flowchart to attempt each of the tasks given. Alright, so here is the content of the pre-release. In preparation for the examination, sorry, excuse me. In preparation for the examination, candidates should attempt the following practical task by writing and testing a program or programs. Friends of Civil Pier is an organization devoted to the restoration and upkeep of a pier in the town. A pier is a wooden structure that provides a walkway over the sea. The pier requires regular maintenance, and the Friends of the Pier need to raise money for this purpose. Members of Friends of Civil Pier each pay $75 per year as a contribution to the pier's running cost. This entitles them to free admission to the pier throughout the year. They can also volunteer to help run the pier by working at the entrance gate, working in the gift shop, or painting and decorating. To provide additional income, the pier's wooden planks can be sponsored. A brass plug, which contains a short message of the sponsor's choice, is fitted to a plank on the pier for a donation of $200. Write and test a program or programs for the Friends of Civil Pier. Your program or programs must include appropriate prompts for the entry of data. Data must be validated on entry. All outputs, including error messages, need to be set out clearly and understandably. All variables, constants, and other identifiers must have meaningful names. You will need to complete these three tasks. Each task must be fully tested. Task 1. Becoming a member of Friends of Civil Pier. Set up a system to enable people become members of Friends of Civil Pier, and for each new member, enter the first name and last name, whether or not they wish to work as a volunteer. If they choose to volunteer, identify the area from the pier entrance gate, the gift shop, painting and decorating. The date of joining has to be entered too. Whether or not they have paid the $75 fee has to also be entered. All of this information needs to be stored using suitable data structures. And of course, it's important that I remind you that the only data structure we are going to make use of is an array. So all through we shall be using arrays to store different data. Task 2. Using the membership data, extend the program in Task 1 so that a list of the first and last names of members can be output in any of the following categories: members who have chosen to work as volunteers, volunteers who would like to work at the pier entrance gate, volunteers who would like to work in the gift shop, volunteers who would like to help with painting and decorating tasks, members whose membership has expired, they have not rejoined this year, members who have not yet paid their $75 fee. Sponsoring a wooden plank. Add an additional option to the program in task 1 to enable the peers wooden planks to be sponsored. Separate data structures should be used to store the names of the individuals and the short messages they would like to have written on their brass plaque. An output will display everything that was input for the sponsor to confirm. If errors are found, the program should allow data to be re-entered. Once complete, the data is stored and the sponsor is charged $200. Okay, so now let's begin with the first task, which is task 1. We are going to design a program that will allow a member to allow somebody to become a member of Friends of Civil Peer. In this case, we are talking about registration. So getting registered to become a member of Friends of Civil Peer is a program that we are going to work on. All right, let's walk through it now. Okay, so I will be making use of 3 different methods. The first method will be programming statement, and the second method would be pseudo code. Then the third method is going to be a flowchart. All right, remember that you've been instructed to make sure that your program or programs must include appropriate prompts. What are prompts in this case? Now, in a simpler term, prompts are actually instructions that guide the user on how to make use of the program. So it could be a kind of an output that displays a set of instructions that guide the users on how to make use of the program or the features of the program. Okay, quickly. Now I'm going to use this to be my prompt, sort of. So a programming statement is actually more like speaking about the steps to be taken in order for the program to be executed. So it's a simpler language that can be used to describe what happens in the program. So here, display prompt for member to input first name. This is my prompt statement. Okay, then the second thing to do is store members first name in first names array. Display prompt for member to input last name, then store members last name in last names array. Remember, when you display something for the user to do, you must allow the user to actually do that thing. So the variable or the array that collects or stores the data entered by the user has to be declared too. So that is why you see when the prompt is displayed, the next thing that follows is kind of an array, which is first names array, to store the information that's going to be entered by the user. Okay, so the fifth one is the display prompt to ask if members want to volunteer or not. If member wants to volunteer, so this is a primary condition. Okay, and this condition has a sub condition check. Okay, so we are going to actually check to validate what we have. Now, if member wants to volunteer, display prompt for member to select a choice from. Now, there are 3 choices to volunteer from, and they are the peer entrance gate, the gift shop, or painting and decorating. Store members choice in area of volunteer selections array. So anytime a member picks any of the 3 choices, the choices that pick will be stored in this particular array. Okay, so remember, they will be stored in this particular array. Okay, display prompt to ask whether or not the member has paid $75 yearly membership fee. Store members entry in paid 75 array. Store prompt to ask for the registration date of the member. Store members and entry in the registration dates array. Now, why have I chosen to make use of arrays? Because I'm going to store multiple values. Now, remember that I cannot just use a variable, because if I use a variable and I try to register a different user, the variable will be overwritten. The value in the variable is going to be overwritten. But if it is stored in an array, then an array can contain multiple values depending on the number of registrations that the user wants to make. Okay, so here my solution tool is Pseudo Code. Now I'm going to start by imputing number of registrations. This is important in order for me to know the amount of registrations to be entered, and for the looping statement to determine how many times it's going to loop over the program. So, and because I don't actually have a fixed number, I will allow the user to enter the number of registrations they want to make each time they want to actually run the program. Okay, so, and that is the first thing I have done here. Impute number of registrations. So number of registration is simply a variable. Okay, so now volunteer options. I'm going to initialize the 3 volunteer options, which are the peer entrance kit, the gift shop, and painting and decorating. So this is actually in the array index of 0, and the second one is 1, and the third one is 2. So the highest index of this array is 2. Okay, now remember that arrays are 0 indexed. The third one, for count, I'm starting my for loop here. For count, count is the counting variable for the loop. For count, equals 0 to number of registrations minus 1. Alright, now assuming I have like 100 registrations to make, okay, and my array is 0 index, so from 0 to 100 will be 101, so I will be running out of range. In order to restrict this, I will always subtract 1 from the given number of the arrays. Okay, so I will now have 99 here. So counting 0, 1, 2 up to 99 altogether will give us 100. Output, enter first name. Input. Now the output here is a prompt to enter for the user to know what to do. Okay, now input is what happens behind the scene, where whatever the user enters will be stored in first name array. And of course I'm using this count to show that it's going to be stored in the position of the count of the array. For instance, if the first count is 0, okay, so it will be stored in the 0 position of the array. So if it is 1, it will be stored in the 1 position of the array. Now remember, we are counting from 0 to number of registrations minus 1. And we are going to repeat the programs within this for loop, okay, up to the amount of the number of registrations we have entered minus 1. Okay, so output, enter last name, and of course you have a way that the user will be allowed to input the last name in the last name array. Output, now output is always used to show you prompt. I must repeat that again. Output, do you want to volunteer? Enter yes or no. So this is a guide. Now whatever the user enters will be stored here. Want to volunteer. If want to volunteer is equal to yes, then now we are making use of a selection statement here using the if construct. Now output, enter 0 to select the peer entrance gate, enter 1 to select the gift shop, enter 2 to select the painting and decorating. Now recall that we are not actually doing this by random. Okay, 0, 1, and 2 actually correspond with what we have here for the volunteer options array. We have 0 position, 1 position, and 2 position because we have 3 elements of the array. So I told you earlier that arrays are 0 index, so it begins from 0, 1, 2. So we have 3 here, and we want to make reference to them. That is why we have allowed the user to select either 0, 1, 2 in order to select any of the options. Now input, we allow the user to input the option they are going to select, and this option is going to be stored in the volunteer options index. Okay, so volunteer options index, and when it is stored in the volunteer options index, area of volunteer selections for that particular count or the loop, okay, is going to store the information of volunteer options, then volunteer options index. Assuming we have saved our volunteer options index to be 1, okay, now what is going to be stored here? Volunteer options of 1 will now become the gift shop. I don't know whether you understand this. Okay, it's going to be the gift shop. Alright, so this should be clear enough. Then at this point we are going to end our if block for this particular one. Now if we want to volunteer, if what the user have chosen is no, then we are going to store in the area of volunteer selections of that particular count, we'll store non-value. Okay, so this is in order not to keep that position of the array blank. We have to store non-value. Non-value shows that no selection was made by the user, so we have to enter it in that manner. Okay, so we have to end our if. Output is another prompt. Enter date of joining. Input registration dates of the count. Output again, have you paid $75 fee? Type yes or no. So this actually is a Boolean array. Okay, so it's going to store either yes or no. That is going to be entered by the user. And we have to end our loop by using next count. So the next count will make sure that the loop continues until the final index. Okay, so which is, for instance, if we have chosen 100, then 99 should be the last index, because from 0 to 99 it gives us 100 values. Okay, so this is a flowchart, which is method 3. Okay, we start our flowchart using this particular start symbol. Okay, now volunteer options, just like the initialization that we made earlier. Output number of registrations, input number of registrations. Then this is a process box where we have to assign n. Okay, we have to assign to n number of registrations minus 1. Right, so whatever we got from here, we assign it to n. So for us to know the last index for the array, count will be initialized to 0. Input, enter first name, last name, and registration date. Output, sorry. So this is a prompt, and the input is going to be stored in first names count for the first name, and input for last name will be stored in the last names count, and registration dates also will be stored too. Alright, output, want to volunteer. Now the values to be entered should be yes or no, and the user will be allowed to make the input using input symbol. Okay, now there's a decision here to be made, which is a selection statement. Is want to volunteer yes? Then this is the yes channel. If it is no, they should be executed. So, and what should be executed is area of volunteer selections should be given the value of none, just like we did in our pseudocode. Okay, now if it is yes, then it's going to display yet another prompt which allows the user to enter 0 to select the peer entrance gate, 1 to select the gift shop, or 2 to select painting and decorating. Output, paid 75, enter yes or no. Input, then the user will be allowed to do so. We increment our count by 1, okay, and we go for that to check whether count is still less than or equal to n, which is the last index. If it is, then it should go back and actually execute from here, allow the next entries of data to be made. All right, otherwise then the program should terminate. Okay, all right, so we are done with task 1. Let's proceed to task 2 now. Task 2, using the membership data, extend the program in task 1 so that a list of first name and last names of members can be output in any of the following categories. Members who have chosen to work as volunteers. So let's work on this now. We are assuming that actually this has been task 1 has been completed successfully, so we want to extend it. All right, how do we do this? Display a list of first and last names. We are using programming statement as step 1. So for the first one, display a list of first name and last names who have chosen to volunteer to work as volunteers. Check the values in areas of. So basically this is the question I'm going to address, and my programming statement begins here. Check the values in the area of volunteer selections. Remember, we want to display first name and last names of members who have chosen to volunteer. And what am I to display? First name and last name. So, and the condition here is that they must have chosen to volunteer. So recall that when I was walking you through how to store information about areas of volunteer, there is a particular line of code that we have to specify that none must be entered. None means that no selection was made. So in that case, we are going to use this to check those that have made selections. So for every value or elements of the array, if the value is none, okay, if the value is none, then get the element in the first names array whose index is not the same as the index of none. So if the value is none, you have to get the index. So in that case, if the value is not none, then you get the index too. So 2 ways. That means you are looking for values that are none. Okay, if the values in the array are not none, then the selection that has been inserted in the array will be selected for display. Alright, now get the element in the last names array whose index is not the same as the index of none in area of selections array. Output first names value, output last names value. Now recall that task 2, you will always be asked to actually program complete any of the options given, about 5 options. So this is actually the first one we have dealt with already. So here is the second question for that task 2. Display a list of first name and last names of volunteers who would like to work at the peer entrance gate. Okay, now check the values in the area of selections array. For every value or element of the array, if the value is peer entrance gate. So it's more like the first one we did, all right, but in this case we have a particular selection we want to work on, which is the pair entrance gate. Those of them that have chosen to work at the pair entrance gate. So in that case, the condition must be equal to pair entrance gate. Get the element in the first names array, which has the same index as the current pair entrance gate. So remember, everything is stored in an array, and each array corresponds to number of data, number of registrations that have been made. So whatever that is contained in the array position of 1 for each of the array variables declared must be related to a particular individual that has registered. Okay, so get the element in the first names array, which has the same index as the current pair entrance gate in area of volunteers. Do the same for the last name. Output first names values and also last names values. Then you are done. If no value is found, output. This is actually optional. Okay, if no values is found, then output no record found for the pair entrance gate. So I just want to make sure that my program is sufficiently complete and somehow more readable. Display a list. This is the third question. Display a list of last names of volunteers who would like to work in the gift shop. So it follows the same syntax as the other one. I won't go through it now. Okay, display a list of first name and last name of who would like to help with painting and decorating. So it's more like repeating the same steps for different condition, which is painting and decorating. So you do the same thing that we did earlier. Display a list of first and last names of members whose membership has expired. They have not rejoined. Now how I'm going to address this is for every member who's paid. In that case, they must have paid. Alright, and if they have paid, I have to check whether their membership is valid, whether it has not exceeded 12 months. Okay, it's an annual fee, so it should not exceed 12 months. If it exceeds 12 months, then a renewal has to be made. Check the values of registration days array. So this is where I store the dates that have been registered. For every element of the array, subtract the value from the current data to extract, the current date to extract the number of months. Alright, now if the number of months in the current date is greater than 12, get the element in the first names array, which has the same index as the current value in the registration days array. Get the element in last names array, which has the same index as the current value in registration days array. Output first name value, output last name's value. If the value is not found, output no record found for membership renewal. Again, this is actually optional. You can actually do it or you choose not to do it. Display a list of first name and last names of members who have not paid their 75 fee. Remember, this particular value is paid 75 stores Boolean literals, that is yes or no. Okay, so in that case, those of them that have not paid must have chosen no. Alright, now for every element of the array, if the value is no, get the element in the first names array, which has the same index as the current value in page 75 array. Get the element in the last names array, which has the same index as the current value in paid 75 array. Output first names values, output last names values. If the value is yes, output all members have paid membership fee. So we are done with this, and the solution to method 2 for task 2 is the pseudocode. So typically it's going to be, for this particular one, display a list of first and last names who have chosen to work as volunteers. Remember, you are assuming that this has been entered, that task 1 has been completed. Alright, so in that case, I have like 3 lines of code to extend my program based on the question that I've been asked. And typically, I think you might choose to use pseudocode instead of programming statement. Whichever one you use, you just have to know how to get around it. Okay, so for here, if area of volunteer selections of the particular count, remember you are embedding this within the for loop of the first task that we have completed earlier. So we assume everything is complete, so we want to extend that particular task. Okay, so and what we are looking for is a list of names of members who have chosen to work as volunteers. So anywhere that we do not have none, it means that they have either chosen to work as any of the volunteers options, like the peer entrance gate, the gift shop, and painting and decorating. So any one of them must have been chosen. But if it is that is only the value entered, is none. Otherwise, then something has been chosen. So if this is not equal to, this double angular brackets are actually used to indicate not equal to, okay, in pseudocode or programming. Now then, output members' names, first name count, comma, then we give space using this. Okay, this simply means we have to create a space, and we separate it from last name count. Then and if. Note, the above block of code must be embedded within the for to next loop. Given that a record exists with the first name of John and the last name of Doe, the output based on the above code will be as follows: member's name colon John Doe. So this is how the output is typically going to look like, because I have member's name here, all right, in double quotes, showing that it's not a variable, comma. Then we have an array variable here. We separate it with another string indicator, okay, to show a space. Then we have the last name count over there. The second one, display a list of first name and last names of volunteers who would like to work at a peer entrance gate. So in that case, we are choosing equals the peer entrance gate, following the same pattern. Then output member's name, first name, last name. Alright, and if display a list of first name and last name of volunteer who would like to work in the gift shop. So it follows the same pattern, except that we change the condition to what they are, as well as with this particular one. Okay, all right. Okay, so the next one we have is display a list of first and last names of members whose membership has expired. They have not rejoined. Now, if page 75 is equal to yes, then if month's registration dates of that particular account is greater than 12, then output member's name, first name, last name. What have I done here? I use this month as a function to actually, you have to be able to describe what your function does. Okay, now I'm using this as a function to extract the number of months in the given members registration dates. So if the number of months is 13, for instance, of course, you know that registration renewal is due, so they have to actually renew. Then if it is less than 12, okay, then they don't have to actually renew. Okay, all right. Now display a list of first and last names of members who have not yet paid their 75. So it follows the same pattern. Remember, paid 75 is no. If it is no, then of course they have not paid. Then you have to output their names. Moving forward to task 3, okay, let's go through what task 3 is for us. Sponsoring a wooden plank. So we have to add an array that we allow sponsors to be able to enter their details. So the details we want to enter for the sponsors are their names as well as the short messages. Okay, so names of individuals and of course short messages to be entered. So we have to do that. It's very simple. Using a programming statement, we have a display prompt for user to input sponsor's name, store user input in the sponsor names array. Display prompt for user to input a short message, store user input in the sponsor short messages. Display entries for the user to confirm, allow user to re-enter data if there exist and any errors. If there is no error, submit entries and debit user $200. So I think this is very typical and logical enough. It's more like describing the steps to be taken to do something. So you can as well decide to use this if you are actually asked to make do this for task 3. But obviously from experience, I think you will be asked question to complete any of the task 2 items using pseudocode programming statement or flowchart, so which I have represented for you guys, so you can actually make use of any of those. Although I didn't make use of flowchart, but you can try it on too. Alright, okay. Now pseudocode, enter sponsor's name. Again, we have to store the sponsor's names in sponsor's names array. Why have we chosen an array? Because we have to make sure there are so many arrays, so many values to be stored. Print, enter a short message. Sponsor short messages. User input. Print, please confirm that the data you supplied is correct. Print sponsor names. Then you have to show them what to confirm. So using the print statement. If error, if there is an error, then re-enter data. Else, submit entries. Okay. Charge and debit user $200. Then you end if. Okay. So typically this is all we have for task for all the tasks in problem solving. I hope you enjoy the video, and at any point in time you don't get a certain concept, I would recommend that you pause the video and try to internalize and walk yourself through, figure out how this works, and repeat the video as many times as you like in order to internalize fully well. Okay, all right. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe for subsequent resourceful videos like this and more things. So if you have any question, you can make use of the comment box in the channel, and a response will be attached also.